her plan. And it didn't work, obviously. What was that noise?
Yeah, what was that?
Well, she was a nun for 10 years and then decided, nah, and got out of it and met my dad and got married and started to have a family and then adopted, 2 boys. She would never admit it like this, but her plan was, okay, I left the nunhood, which she was definitely guilty about her entire life. I'm going to adopt 2 boys and give them back as priests. I thought I was going to be a priest, up until about, 3rd grade, I started to have questions. The thing that really screwed up my mom that she could not have counted on was Star Wars. It was the summer between 4th and 5th grade for me. And I remember seeing Star Wars and I just remember thinking, oh, that's how Mom wants us to feel during church. Seriously, but I mean, you can't compete with warrior monks and glowing swords. I've said this before, and I mean it seriously. Star Wars was the first hint of a wider world that I got in my world. I was in the Midwest. It was boring and it was flat. Because you saw it from the moment the movie started to the moment the movie ended. You were somewhere else. My sister Michelle took my brother and I. We got on a bus and drove out to Yorktown Mall, and I was just super excited. The theater was packed. The movie starts, and you just have this billowing of classical music, and you're just like, whoa, it's almost like a herald when the king's about to enter. Just this rush of music, and then you get the now iconic words floating up the screen, and you're like, okay, it has set the stage, and then all of a sudden, giant spaceship, and blasts of sound and light, and that's it. And my mom didn't know, she would be, Joey, let your little brother use the Force for a while, that. No, Mom, you don't get it. We're saying lines to the movie. And I always felt like there was this part of her that was just like, why can't they know the Bible like that? The way the Midwest felt about Jesus is the way San Francisco feels about dogs. They're passionate. You don't question the dog, and it's a partner. It's not a pet, That made sense to me because those people are just as crazy. It's just, if I'm like, okay, that's a cute dog, they're not going to go, I damn you for all eternity. They're just going to be like, you don't get it. I remember getting sent to the principal's office, and the principal would be like, all right, why are you here today? And then I'm just like, he died for our sins? What? And it'd be one-on-one religion class, where she'd be like, well, listen, you're allowed to question, but if you don't want your soul to burn in all eternity in a lake of fire, then you need to believe this. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, that's a good tactic to use on a child, so you're threatening me with eternal damnation for having a question. So that happened all the time. And I just remember looking at the stars and they're silent, tiny little points of light. And then one day you learn that each one of those points of light is a sun, just like ours. If you tell anybody that piece of information, I don't know anybody who doesn't in their head start to think, well, I wonder if there's other planets then like ours going around those other suns. And then you learn about how far away they are. I mean, the distances you cannot hold logically in your head. You only measure it in time. If I wanted to go to the closest star of the speed of light, it's 30 years. That's fascinating to me. I mean, that blows you away. And so then, you start to think, is there something more? There was a show that came on PBS, Carl Sagan's Cosmos. It's this charismatic kind of geeky guy talking about astronomy, so you think. But as the series goes on, there's all of this philosophy and history of science and, what he's really teaching you, he's giving you this crash course in critical thinking. This is why we know how old stars are, and this is how we know that when we carbon date something, how we know that it's accurate. My mom and I we weren't even speaking the same language. Because I would come to her like, hey mom, do you know anything about how the universe was created? God, he said, let there be light, and I'm like, well, theory is it's the big, not completely now we were opposites.
About like,
well, we talked, and the dolphins are rebelling.
what the hell is going
Sounds
on?
like is it the fire alarm that the battery is dying?
Maybe, it could be. I don't know.
So previously secret information, it's my storytelling show, and here's really where it came about is as a comedian, you're really only allowed to do two things on stage. You're allowed to be funny, of course, and angry. You can't really take some of the most amazing stories that happens to you as a person on a stand-up stage because you have to edit it down to funny or angry, and that leaves a lot on the floor. So I wanted to start a show where I could be a complete human being, tell one story that had a whole range of emotions, and it wasn't about being funny. It was just about telling a great story well. It's been going 2 years now, and we're doing well. We get good crowds, we get repeat audience, which I think means we're doing something right, and we've videoed, or we haven't, maybe.
How do you sum up your PSI in one quick second?
It's great stories told well, and hopefully it will be on HBO someday.
Time to take.
The plan